Hey everyone, welcome to Relatively Refined. My name is Paula. Well, today's video combines two of my favorite things, books and baking. I have a cozy little book haul to share with you of books that I've gathered from a variety of sources, and then we're going to head to the kitchen and do a little baking. If those are things that sound like fun to you, then stick around and let's get started. Well, I recently took a trip to the Goodwill bins to look for some books for my classroom. If you're not familiar with the Goodwill bins, they are these, it's also known as the Goodwill outlet. And it's a huge kind of warehouse area, and they have these big blue bins, at least in my mind they do. And they're piled full of all kinds of stuff. Now, the one in my area is mostly clothing and shoes. There's some home goods or hard goods kind of all mixed in there. And then they have several bins that are, for the most part, just books. So as I said, I went to get books for my classroom because you pay by the pound there. And I think books are something like 89 or 99 cents a pound. It ends up being a great bargain, especially for children's books. But while I was there looking for children's books, I found a number of book treasures for myself. And what I'm going to share with you today cost me less than, I think, $10 for the books that I got at the Goodwill bins. And there were several, quite a few of them actually. So it really does end up being a very good deal. Now you have to be willing to kind of paw and dig, which, I love that. I love to dig through and look for treasures. But if you don't like that, then you don't want to go to the Goodwill bins. Anyway, one of the first books that I found in the bins was The Shell Seekers by Rosamund Pilcher. So many of you recommended this book to me in several of my book videos that when I saw it, I thought I need to get this and read it. Now, it is a big fat book. It's over 500 pages. So this is going to have to either wait for Christmas break or next summer vacation. And based on the title, I think what I'm going to do is stick it on my shelf and get to it next summer when I can really devote some uninterrupted time to getting into this book. I'm going to be on the lookout for some other Rosamund Pilcher books as well, maybe some that aren't quite so long. This looks like a tremendous saga. I'm sure it's fabulous. But as I said, I'm going to put this on my shelf and save it for next summer. The next book that I came across was The Personal Librarian, and it is by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. And this was a New York Times bestseller, and it was also a Good Morning America book club pick. But when I read the back of it, of course, what got me interested was The Personal Librarian, the title. And then I read the back of it, and it's fantastic. Now, it's nonfiction. And the description of it is a remarkable novel about J.P. Morgan's personal librarian, Belle DaCosta Green, the Black American woman who is forced to hide her true identity and pass as white in order to leave a lasting legacy that enriched our nation. I think this sounds so good. It goes on to say that in her 20s, Belle DaCosta Green was hired by J.P. Morgan to curate a collection of rare manuscripts, books, and artwork for his newly built Pierpont Morgan Library. She became a fixture in New York society and one of the most powerful people in the art and book world, known for her impeccable taste and shrewd negotiations. But Belle has a secret, one she must protect at all costs. She was born not Belle DaCosta Green, but Belle Marion Greener. She is the daughter of Richard Greener, the first Black graduate of Harvard and a well-known advocate for equality. Belle's complexion isn't dark because of her alleged Portuguese heritage that lets her pass as white. Her complexion is dark because she is Black. So I think this sounds fascinating. So I snagged this up, and I will look forward to getting into this book, The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. The next book that I found in the Goodwill bins was this one called The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. Now, this was popular several years ago, probably many years ago, actually, now that I think about it. Let me see when this was first published, because I do know that it was very popular when it first came out, 1989. So, and I have never read it. And this was a beautiful hardback book with the dust jacket intact. And it says, in this honest, moving, and beautifully courageous story, Amy Tan shows us Chinese American women and their families and the mystery of the mother-daughter bond in ways that we have not experienced before. Haunted by ghosts, rich with bone-chilling secrets, and the miraculous connection between mothers and daughters, The Joy Luck Club is an extraordinary and beautiful book. So it's recommended by Alice Walker, Alice Hoffman, and Louise Erdrich. So you really can't go wrong with that. So I'm excited to read this. And I have not read a lot of books by Asians or Asian Americans, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Hold on, I can see Phoebe down here. I think she wants to get up on the back of the couch. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, she's here. Let me see if I can get a picture. There she is. She's awake right now, so we probably won't hear any snoring. And Hazel's over across from me, sitting on the bench looking out the window. So all is right with the world. The babies are here. The next book that I found in the Goodwill bins was this hard copy of A Confederacy of Dunces. Now, I have read this years ago. This book has an interesting story, and I'm going to read you the introduction to it. If you have not heard of it, it was kind of almost like a cult favorite when it was first published. But let me just read you the intro, because that will explain a lot about this book. Oh, Hazel is going to join us, I think. Hi, Hazel. The foreword in this book is by Walker Percy. Perhaps the best way to introduce this novel, which on my third reading of it astounds me even more than the first, is to tell you of my first encounter with it. While I was teaching at Loyola in 1976, I began to get telephone calls from a lady unknown to me. What she proposed was preposterous. It was not that she had written a couple of chapters of a novel and wanted to get into my class. It was that her son, who was dead, had written an entire novel during the early 60s, a big novel, and she wanted me to read it. Why would I want to do that? I asked her. Because it is a great novel, she said. Well, it turns out that his mom was right. It is the story of Ignatius P. Riley, who is a kind of eccentric and very pompous but slothful intellectual. He still lives with his mother, but he has disdain for all of society. And it's just a hilarious account of his life. It takes place in New Orleans, and there are a variety of very funny, very eccentric kind of characters in this book that kind of highlight what New Orleans must have been like in the 1960s when this was being written. So, as I said, it was a cult classic. I read it many, many years ago. It's very, very funny. And it, in fact, won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction posthumously. So the author is John Kennedy Toole, and his mother is the one who sent it to Walker Percy at Loyola University and asked him to read it. And he went to great lengths upon getting this manuscript to get it published. And then, as I said, eventually it did win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, long after John Kennedy Toole's death. So, A Confederacy of Dunces. And this is, again, another nice hard copy book. So I was very happy to find that at the bins. Let me see. There is one more, I believe. One more book that I got at the bins. And then the other books I found at a little local library sale, and I will share those with you. And actually, you know what? There are two more books from the bins. So there's this one. This one is called Mademoiselle Chanel. And this is a story, and I don't know, I believe it is, it's kind of a biography of her. I don't know how, how much it is based on actual fact, and how much of it is kind of fictionalized. But I do think it is, let me see if it tells. No, it's written by someone who was an admirer of her, and he says the author is C.W. Gortner, a lifelong admirer of Coco Chanel. His passion for writing led him to give up fashion, and his many historical novels have been bestsellers. Published in more than 20 countries, he lives in San Francisco. So this is like historical fiction, I guess, or a biography of Coco Chanel. And it says, born into rural poverty, Gabrielle Chanel and her sisters are sent to a convent orphanage after their mother's death. The nuns of the order nurture Gabrielle's exceptional sewing skills, a talent that would propel the willful young woman into a life far removed from the drudgery of her childhood. Now, I am fascinated by Coco Chanel. I wear Chanel perfume. I have Chanel lipstick. I just love the rags to riches story of her life. And so I am very excited to read this novel. And again, it's a beautiful hardback book, complete with dust jacket. This was published, when was this first published? 2015, so by HarperCollins. So again, this is a fairly new book and it's in great shape. So those are I'm sorry, there's one more that I got at the bins. And this is something that I was so very excited to find. I could not actually believe it. It's a book I've been looking for quite some time. And that is the Betty Crocker Cookie Book. This was first published, I think, in 1963. And actually, look at this. I want to share this with you. Inside of this, there is a recipe that's taped to the inside here and one up here by whomever owned this before. There's also recipes that have been cut out from magazines and put in here. And the book itself is in almost perfect condition. So let me just see. This was printed in 1975, this particular edition of it, but it first came out in 1963. And it is just full of all cookie recipes. And I love how they spell it with the Y. I don't know why, but this particular version of cookie is spelled with a Y. So I'm excited to dig into this and make some of the cookies that are in this book. And in fact, we're going to be doing just that once I finish up with this haul. But to find this just lying there in the Goodwill bins was worth the whole trip there, was worth the $10 I spent on all the books to get this alone. The last time I found this at a thrift store, it was $26 and I did not buy it. And I regretted it ever since. And then lo and behold, I find one at the Goodwill bins. So I was very happy to find this. Now, the rest of the books that I'm going to share with you are books that I got at a local library book sale, and then a couple that I got from Thrift Books. And I want to thank all of you. The reason I was able to get these books from Thrift Books was that so many of you used my Thrift Books link, which is down in the description box. And when you spend $30 using my link, you get a free book and I get a free book. And so several of you did that. And I do want to say thank you so much. That is just wonderful. I love that you're all using the link and ordering from Thrift Books, which I think is a great company. And it was so exciting to get notification that I had some free books. That's just one of the things that you can do to help support our little channel. So I thank you very, very much. And let me show you the two books that I selected from Thrift Books using my free book coupons. The first is 84 Charing Cross Road, which is a little very small, almost like a novella, but it is written in letter form. And it is a series of letters that a woman in New York City wrote to a bookstore in London. Let me just read you the back. This charming classic, first published in 1970, brings together 20 years of correspondence between Helene Hanff, a freelance writer living in New York City, and a used book dealer in London. So this is a classic, and I'm super excited to read it. And the second book that I selected was a Miss Read book. It is the first in her Fairacre series, and it is called Village School. And it is the stories of her as a school teacher, Miss Read as a school teacher, and her lovable group of children who, with a mixture of skinned knees and smiles, are just as likely to lose themselves as their mittens. This is the English village of Fairacre, a handful of thatched roofed cottages, a church, the school, The promise of fair weather, friendly faces, and good cheer, at least most of the time. I love the misread books, and I know so many of you love them as well. So I was very excited to select the first in the Fairacre series from Thrift Books. So again, thank you so much to everyone who has used my Thrift Book link. And if you are interested in using it, it'll be always down in the description box of the videos. And you just click on that link and you can create an account for yourself at Thrift Books. They have tons of books to look through. Their prices are great. Shipping is free. If you're a teacher, you get all kinds of discounts as well. And if you spend $30 when you use that link, you get a free book, and so do I. Okay, that was it for Thrift Books. The rest of the books are books that I got at a little local library book sale. And there are just, 4 of them. The first one I got is this humongous book. It is called And the Ladies of the Club. It's a novel by Helen Hooven Santmeyer. Now, I had this book years ago. The author, Helen Hooven Santmeyer, is a Wellesley College graduate, as am I. So I remember when this first was published by her, it was a big hullabaloo. Let me see what year it was that was first published. Let me just see. It was published in 1982. Now, I attended Wellesley College from 1982 to 1986. So this was a big deal. And I had this exact copy, and I don't know whatever happened to it. I think probably in many of my moves, I lost it or gave it away, because look at the size of this book. It has, how many pages does it have? It has well over 1,000, like 1,175 pages or something. So I'm sure I thought, I don't want to move this. And I never did actually finish reading it. So I've always been on the lookout for it, and I have never, ever seen it at a thrift store or a used bookstore or anything. And when I was at this book sale, this is one of the first books that I saw on the table of books in front of me, and I snagged it up, and I only paid $3 for this hardback book. So I was super excited to get it. Now, this book, let me read you the description of this book. And the Ladies of the Club is the product of 50 years of work by its remarkable author, 88-year-old Helen Hooven Santmeyer. But it is a rare event in any publishing season, a great, rich reading experience, peopled with characters you will come to know intimately and to care about profoundly. From the chaotic aftermath of the Civil War to the threshold of the New Deal, And the Ladies of the Club tells the warm, intimate, yet epic tale of the lifetimes of 2 women in a small Ohio town and the other members of the Winnsboro Ladies Literary Society. I think it sounds fantastic, and I love that it was written by a Wellesley alum, and I cannot wait to dig into this. Now, again, this is probably going to have to be a summer read or something where I just read a few pages each night for a good long time. But anyway, this was the first book that I found at the library book sale. And I noticed that Hazel, her naughty little self, started to pull at the dust jacket of it. She did finally come up here. She's over here. Hazel, there you are. Hazel, did you chew on my book? Did you chew on my book? And now you can probably also hear Phoebe's snoring. Okay, there are 3 more books. The next book that I got was Every Living Thing by James Herriot. I love the All Creatures Great and Small series, the James Herriot books. I love the PBS show or BBC show of it. I absolutely love it. And I know so many of you suggested the James Herriot books in my children's books video that I did recently. I will link that up here and then in the description box as well. So many people mentioned the James Herriot books. And I know in particular, one of our viewers and friends, Chris, is a big animal lover. So Chris, I would imagine, based on what you've said about reading animal books, that you probably have read all of the James Herriot books. But it is about an English vet living in the rural area of England known as Yorkshire. And it's just It's just fabulous. So I was excited to find this. Again, a nice hardback copy with the dust jacket intact. Then right after I found, and the ladies of the club, I found a vintage Village Diary by Miss Reed. I was so excited. This was clearly an old library book, but I think this might be a first edition, first American edition. This was copyright 1957. So this is a first printing of this, a first edition, probably American. It's by Houghton Mifflin. And I was thrilled to find it. It still has the dust jacket. The dust jacket is in a little bit rough shape, but I was thrilled to find this, and I cannot wait to add it to my collection and to read it. This says, one of the pleasantest surprises of an autumn of 1956 was a modest English book called The Village School. That's the one I ordered from Thrift Books. Reviewers outdid themselves in praise of its gentle but warmly universal qualities, and readers who came to browse stayed to fall in love with the village schoolma'am and her little world. Hers was a picture which was observed with an exactitude, animation, and sense of comedy that recall a Bruegel painting of a country folk. In her new book, Village Diary, Miss Reed describes the people in the village of Fairacre with as much loving detail as she portrayed their children in village school. So this was a very exciting find. And then lastly, I found this book. I know nothing about it, but it's called Love and Death in Burgundy. And it's a novel set in France. And I believe it is a cozy mystery. And so I thought for a couple of dollars, I will give this book a shot. It says, living in the small town of Rennes-Sur-Canne, all Catherine Goff really wants is to be accepted by her neighbors into their little community. But as an American expat living in the proud region of Burgundy, that's no easy task. When the elderly Frenchman who lives in the village chateau is found dead at the bottom of a staircase, the town is turned into a hotbed of gossip and suspicion, and Catherine suddenly finds herself drawn deeper and deeper into the small town's secrets. So I thought this looked good. I love books set in France, especially rural France and small town France. So this looked like a fantastic read, and it's very short compared to most of the other ones I found. So I figure I could probably read this in a day or two. All right, well, that concludes my book haul. I hope you enjoyed it. I have a lot of books now on my TBR list, but in honor of finding the Betty Crocker cookie book, I think what we're going to do is head into the kitchen and bake up a batch of my favorite chocolate peanut butter oatmeal no-bake cookies. So come on, let's head into the kitchen. I can remember both of my grandmothers making these no-bake chocolate peanut butter oatmeal cookies. Now, we lived in Vermont growing up, as you know, and in the summertime it does get hot there, but nobody has central air. And my grandma Barry, who lived, she's my mom's mother, or was my mom's mom, she lived in a second floor apartment. There was an upstairs, kind of a downstairs house. It was a huge, huge house, but it was, divided upstairs and downstairs, and she lived upstairs. And so on hot summer days with no air conditioning, you did not want to turn your your oven on to cook anything, because she had a big old-fashioned gas stove oven combination. And when you lit that oven, it heated up the whole apartment. I can remember on Thanksgiving Day when we would go there, our whole family of 7, and my uncle would be there, and sometimes our cousins and my grandmother and grandfather, and we'd all be in this house, and that stove would be going, the oven would be going. It was so hot in there that all the men were passed out asleep on the couch watching football, because it was just so warm in there you could hardly keep your eyes open. So anyway, on hot summer days, you did not want to turn that oven on and heat up your house. Same with my grandma Bunny. She made these same cookies, and I can remember standing next to her. These are great to make with kids because you don't have to put things in and out of the oven. Now, you do cook some things on the stove for just a couple of minutes, but you can do that. And then with adult supervision, the kids can scoop the cookies out. So let's get started making these no bake chocolate peanut butter oatmeal cookies. I'm going to turn you around and show you all of the ingredients. Everything goes into this saucepan on the stove. So let me get the ingredients in there. I'm going to spin you around, hopefully not too quickly. Okay, what I've got here in a medium saucepan, I've got 2 cups of white sugar, a half a cup of milk, a half a cup of butter or 1 stick of butter, a pinch of salt, and 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So I'm going to take this over to the stove top and bring it to a boil and let it come to a full rolling boil and boil for 2 minutes. So let me get this over on the stove. All right, I have this on the stove and it's over kind of medium-high heat. And I'm going to let all this come together and melt down and come to a rolling boil. And as I mentioned before, once it comes to a rolling boil, you're going to let it boil for 2 minutes. This is now has come to a full rolling boil. So I'm going to let this boil for 2 minutes and then I'm going to turn it off from the heat. This has been boiling now for 2 minutes. So what I'm going to do is turn the heat off and I'm going to add the remaining ingredients. I've got a half a cup of peanut butter that I'm going to add in. And you just want to be careful with this because this is very hot. This boiling sugar is extremely hot. So I'm just going to put my half a cup of peanut butter in there. I've got a teaspoon of my homemade vanilla, and I have 3 cups of quick cooking oats. And I'm just going to stir all of these things together. And once these are combined, I'm going to let it cool down for just a minute. And then I'm going to drop it by spoonfuls onto parchment paper and let it continue to cool. All right, it's all fully mixed and I'm going to just drop spoonfuls of this onto parchment paper and just let it cool there. So you can make these cookies as big or as small as you want. Shape them into, and they're literally just going to harden in whatever shape you put them in. So I will get all these scooped out onto this parchment paper and let them cool down and harden up, and then they'll be ready to enjoy. I have them all scooped out and on parchment paper. You can also use wax paper sitting right here. And they just have to cool and come to room temperature, which takes not that long. I say probably after 30 minutes to an hour. These are perfectly fine for eating, maybe even faster than that. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my books and bakes video. I know that books and baking are some of your favorite activities, as they are mine. I'm going to leave several videos linked for you in the iCards above or at the end of this video and in the description box below that you can enjoy until our next upload. I would love for you to let me know which of the books that I got at the bins or Thrift Books or the library sale was your favorite. Are there any books that I got that you've read that you can recommend to me? And has anybody read And the Ladies of the Club? That is a big chunkster of a book, so I'm wondering if anybody has completed it. And if you've gotten this far in the video and you don't want to leave a comment, but you want to let me know that you are here, leave a cookie emoji in the description, or not the description box, in the comment box below. All of those comments and emojis really do help our channel. Hit that thumbs up button and share this video with someone that you think will enjoy the content. Thank you so much to all of you who have shared it on your Facebook pages and with friends of yours. We truly appreciate it. And if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and help us get to 10,000 subscribers. From there, the sky's the limit. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for today. Take care and check out some of those bookish and baking videos that I've got linked at the end of this one. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the video very soon. Bye-bye.